So Stephanie, one of the things we deal with almost on a weekly basis here at the practice is responding to people who have received GOMORs, right? These General Officer Memorandum of Reprimands. And I guess the thing that's real important is for us to indicate or to talk about what are the consequences of a permanently filed GOMOR in your official military file. What does that mean long term?
So I think the most severe consequence, obviously, is that it could be a career ender for whatever service member has that in their file. And the reason that is because every promotion board will see it, right? And they'll be able to review that a general officer reprimanded you and why they reprimanded you. And so without proper context, that can really prevent someone from progressing in their career and ultimately end their military career for them.
And that's what I call the slow death. There's the quick death where a GOMOR generates a board of inquiry or a separation board where they see that GOMOR and they're like, show cause as to why you should stay in the military. And now you've got this separation board that not only does your career end and maybe you get an honorable or general discharge, now you're facing an other than honorable discharge under adverse circumstances where you lose everything. And not only that, but I mean, you're facing really civilian impacting consequences with an other than honorable discharge. So
Correct.
That's something else that can happen with a permanently filed GOMOR. So you could get the boards, and you could face slow death in terms of not being promoted. What about the effect of a GOMOR when somebody's retiring? Let's say you get it as a lieutenant colonel, you're at 19 years, you're like, peace out. What could happen then?
Well, I think the GOMOR could potentially affect their grade determination, which of course affects how much your retirement is worth, right?
That's exactly right. So let's say a lieutenant colonel in his 19th year gets a GOMOR, it's filed permanently, upon retirement. That's going to trigger the Army Grade Determination Review Board, who's going to look at the record and say, hey, did this person serve honorably while they were lieutenant colonel? They'll evaluate the GOMOR and they'll say, well, no, and then they'll retire him as a major. So over the course of a lifetime, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars because of a permanently filed GOMOR. Not to mention if you're 15 or above in terms of years of service and it generates a board, we're talking millions of dollars of retirement if you lose it.
Correct.
So there's a huge financial consequence from a permanently filed GOMOR, both in ending your career early or getting kicked out or getting retired at a lower grade. What about security clearances? How does a GOMOR affect a security clearance?
Well, the GOMOR will be considered adverse information. So when you go to renew your security clearance, the security clearance administrator will have been pinged that, this happened, and that's something that will need to be reviewed. And depending on the nature of the incident that led to the GOMOR, it could potentially get you either suspended or revoked.
Right. So in the old days, it was the SF-86. I think it's an EQIP now or called some other term. But you fill out that form for your clearance. Not only do you have to document that, but you have to document what the underlying circumstances were. And if you're looking at a top secret clearance, they're going to come in and investigate that. And that might be an event that generates either a downgrade or a revocation of your clearance. And what we've discovered, especially in the Guard and the Reserve worlds, clearances are generally the most important factor of outside employment, right? People working at Boeing or Lockheed or one of these other major companies, they need that TSI clearance so that they can maintain their civilian job. So you have a plethora of bad consequences from an officially filed GOMOR. So what should someone do if they're facing a GOMOR? What's the most important component, or what's the most important thing that they can do in responding to a GOMOR?
I think the most important thing someone needs to do when they're facing a GOMOR is to get an attorney that has a lot of experience with them, and an attorney that knows how to properly make sure that this GOMOR is not placed in your permanent file, convince the reader, convince the GO that this is something that should be a local file. It was a solo incident. This is not going to affect their ability or capacity to continue serving.
So let's say the CG says, hey, it's going to be official. We're going to file it permanently. Is that it? Is that the end of the game?
There is an avenue for removing permanently filed GOMORs from your file.
You got to go to the Department of the Army Suitability and Evaluation Board to do that,
Correct.
right?
It's some work. It's not an easy task, but it is possible. I think a lot of service members don't know that, but it is something that is possible.
Well, look, if you're facing a GOMOR and you've got career-ending consequences or consequences that are going to really jeopardize your financial future, you need to talk to a lawyer. And that's what we do here at the Law Office of Will M. Hellickson. We are your warrior advocates. You defend the nation, we defend you.